This conference will now be recorded.
Hey everybody, this is Tammy DeLue joining you here from the Inland Empire where things are heating up. We're going to hit 92 today. It's a very fine, what is it? Is it Wednesday? You know, when you work from home, Sean, you lose all track of days of the week. I don't know if it's a weekend. Every day sort of feels the same, but I'm really pleased to have a special guest on the show. I know that, when I started the Safe Space podcast, what I tried to do was make it a place where people could come on and have a safe space to talk about their ideas, their perspectives, not have to worry about being judged. Sort of like, Joe Rogan light. That was what I was envisioning. But as time has progressed, I've seen that people really right now, more than ever, Sean, they want to talk about their finances. They want to talk about what's going on with their savings, what's going on with their investments, what's going on in the world, and what we're seeing around us. It's very difficult to interpret what we're seeing because so many things are happening at once. So today I want to introduce you to a special friend of mine, he's one of the good guys. I work a lot with financial advisors and a lot with people in real estate. And every now and then you run across people that are exceptional and are dedicated to their clients. Think of that. I mean, instead of chasing after commissions, they're actually concerned about helping their clients prosper and be successful in whatever it is that they desire. And Sean-Sparkman is one of those people. He's out in the great and sovereign state of Michigan. He works all over the place, though, but he's out in Michigan trying to slog through in much the same way we're slogging through here in California. And he's a fiduciary investment advisor. I want him to talk a little bit about that later, but what that means to you as a consumer of financial products, how important it is to have a fiduciary investment advisor. But he's focused on helping his clients create retirement income that they're going to need. And they probably need it more now than they ever have. Even with current market volatility and interest rates being the way they are, who knows what's going on in the markets, Sean still has ways that he can help his clients protect their money as much as you can in this insanity that we're experiencing. So welcome to the Safe Space podcast. Oh, I want to say that Sean has the Safe and Sound Retirement podcast. We worked on that a little bit together. And so we're both of us all about safety, maybe from different perspectives, but welcome to Safe Space podcast, Sean.
Thank you, Tammy, for having me. It's exciting to be here. And like you said, this is a interesting time in history to not only be in my profession, but of course, just for the normal everyday American to live through what we're living through right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time I've seen all of these things happening at once. You know what I mean? It's biblical. It really is. I mean, it's like a biblical proportions, the things that are happening. I mean, you've got wars, rumors of wars, droughts, pestilence. I mean, we've had it all in the last couple of years, and I don't see any sign, for example, of inflation ever stopping. It looks like a runaway train. So what are you seeing there in Michigan? Because I know there's some regional aspects to this. I know that not everybody's experiencing things in different parts of the country are experiencing things differently, right? So what are you seeing there in Michigan that's different to you?
Well, the main thing would be food prices and gas prices. I think that's common across the whole country. Of course, housing prices have increased significantly. It's going to be interesting to see if they can maintain the level that they have maintained up till now, especially with interest rates rising. And I just saw an article yesterday that new home sales and just home sales in general have actually decreased in the month of April. So what is that going to do in the near future is going to be an interesting thing to see.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've seen the markets are like Broncos on amphetamines. I mean, I just don't make any sense out of it. What is it? What was it, like 7 or 8 days straight of really, really scary downfall? What are your clients saying? Because I know a lot of you work with a lot of retirees and also people that are within a few years of retiring. How are they taking this? What are they saying to you?
Well, the question is, are you asking about my clients or are you asking about prospects? Because those are two completely separate individuals as far as how are they handling what's going on. So in reference to my clients, the way that we have them allocated in their portfolios, and there's a number of different strategies, but when you look at how those strategies have performed during this particular year, I mean, we've outperformed the market as far as maintaining client values and then also growing them on anything in the equity space. And then, of course, there's a portion of a lot of my clients' portfolios that goes into, quote unquote, safe money products, such as an insurance product like an annuity, where there is no volatility that they have to worry about on the downside because their downside is 100% protected. So, do I have some questions from clients? Yeah, I've had questions. I mean, it's a roller coaster right now. You see a day where the S&P Dow is down 3-4%, and the next day it's back up again, and then it's down again. Markets are down overall for the year. But when I get a question from my clients, it's mainly of, hey, everything's working, right? We're good. We go, yeah, everything's working the way it's supposed to be. They're still receiving their income, whether it's from the equity side or the insurance side or both. If they're in retirement, they're receiving their income. If they're not in retirement, they're still continuing to grow their money and maintain throughout this entire time. And that is an important thing because they get to sleep at night knowing that they've allocated to the right strategies.
Exactly. Well, I mean, you hit on something there that I think I hear a lot of financial advisors talking about a lot more often than they ever did, which is it's so important to have diversity in your portfolio, in your life, actually. I think to not have all your eggs really in one very, very tenuous basket, so to speak. So are you telling people to look at their portfolios, like prospects that call you? Are you doing a deep dive into what they have now and seeing if the mix is right, or how are you evaluating what somebody has when they come to you and in a panic? What do you do?
Well, to answer your previous question, I'll come back around to what do we do, but you had said, what is it like for people that come to me? And obviously I get a lot of prospects, people that they're looking for something, they're scared, they don't know what's going on. And that seems to be, for the majority of people, the reaction that they're having right now is they're seeing their value in their portfolios go down. And I have a very good, actually, example of an existing client of mine who the majority of that person's assets are in their 401k. So being that it's a 401k, we don't control how that's allocated. The client does, or they follow some model that their company gave them, right? And the issue with this person's portfolio was they looked at it on a call with me and started crying because that portfolio was down over 30% so far this year. And the thing that struck them the most when they were talking about it was their bond side of the portfolio. In that person's bond portfolio, they had lost over 20%. And they said to me, isn't this supposed to be my quote unquote protected side of the portfolio? And, back in the day, that was kind of the idea. Obviously, there's always risk, whether it's bonds or equities, but the point was it's supposed to be non-correlated to the market swings, which was the idea behind a 60-40 portfolio. So, the S&P or the Dow or any equities, mutual funds, et cetera, they go down, your bonds are supposed to stay the same or maybe go up, and then vice versa. The issue is we're no longer in the 1990s, early 2000s. We're no longer in a declining interest rate environment. We hit all-time low interest rates, and now that rates are going up, people are getting clobbered on their bonds and the equities. So we're seeing both at the same time while also having record high inflation, and people don't know what to do. They're afraid, and they're getting clobbered everywhere, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I don't blame them for being it's very confusing because usually you only have to deal with like one or two major things at a time going on in the world. And there's so much to distract. But I did have an advisor I was talking to the other day, and I don't know if this has been your experience, Sean, but he said that people now, though, because of what's happening, are much more open to suggestion. They are much more open to, for example, he said his seminars, he had trouble getting people into his live seminars, and now he has to turn them away. So are you seeing a shift in people's mindsets?
I think so. Yeah. It's been a totally different scenario from prior to COVID until now. We had the drop in 2020. We had all the issues and fear and the health scare that we've lived through for the past couple of years. And now we're seeing another downturn in the market. And I think these past few years have kind of woken people up to the reality that we aren't in the world that we used to live in. We're in a totally different world. And that's from, the basics of life like we're living with to the financial world. And part of the issue is that there's a lot of people that are stuck in the old way of thinking. And a lot of them are starting to open up to a different way of looking at things. Especially you talk financials, how do you approach building a portfolio as opposed to building a portfolio in the 90s or the 2000s? And the other side there that we have to talk about, and this is something that is very difficult, I think, for people to grasp and understand, and it was when I first started in the business too, is the difference between being 30, 40, or 50 years old and having somewhere between 10 and 30 years until you reach retirement. And that's one way of allocating, to being in retirement, where now you have to use the assets that you've accumulated to generate some kind of income. That's the majority of people. They need some kind of income. They may not need a lot, they may need a lot. Everybody's different. But the point is, you now have some type of assets that have to be turned into some type of income stream, whether you're withdrawing or generating income, whatever it may be. And that's a whole different way of thinking from how do we just let the assets grow until I get somewhere where I'm going to need them in the future. Those are two different worlds, but the vast majority of people and financial advisors think they're the same thing.
Yeah, so I think it was Begna that was saying what got you where you are won't help you once you stop working. I mean, what got you there won't get you down off the mountain, basically. What got you up there in the first place. So it is totally a different skill set. And I was reading about, speaking of mountains, I was reading about Mount Everest, and that more people died coming down than going up. And I thought that was just amazing. But then I realized you're using a whole different set of tools coming back down. You're using a whole different set of, it's a different mindset coming back down the mountain.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was just reading that and I thought, what happens, people get overconfident, I think, especially we went through that period where everybody felt rich. They had that stimulus money out there and everybody was feeling rich and taking risks that ordinarily they may not have taken, buying stuff that, I've been wanting that speedboat. Okay. And I see a lot of people around me, a lot of people that I know got into tremendous debt. What do you think about the debt situation right now? Do you have people calling you saying, oh my God, I can't save for retirement because I'm in over my head?
Well, my scenario is a little bit different in that the vast majority of people that I'm working with are age 50 and up, or they're business owners. So as far as overwhelming debt goes, I'm really not experiencing speaking to people that are in that particular situation. The funny thing is I'm on the exact opposite side, where the vast majority of people I'm talking to, they don't really have any debt. And their main issue is they've accumulated a significant amount of assets that now they've run through this 10 years, 12 years of the best bull market we've ever had. And things have started to unravel a bit. And now it's, okay, what do I do to protect it, for one, from those market swings? And then two, how do I turn it into some type of retirement funds?
Absolutely. So if I came to you though, I mean, I know everyone's situation is different, and none of this is to be construed as final, financial advice to anyone who's listening. That's not what we're doing. We're sort of, helping you think about things a little bit more. But say I'm within 5 years of retirement, and I have 90% of my money in a 401k or other company sponsored plan, and I'm sort of freaking out right now. Are there things I can do? Can I move that money somewhere else at this point in time? What would you tell me to do if I really was not happy with my 401k at all?
Well, obviously, it depends on exact age as to what you can and can't do, because the one main issue with having the vast majority, or almost all of your assets in a 401k, if you're under the age of 59 and a half and you're still working at that company, you probably can't move that money at all. The vast majority of companies, if you're still working there and you're under 59 and a half, they're not going to let you move your assets. So that's one issue, and that's something I talk about with some of my younger clients, business owner clients, et cetera, that have 401k access is, yes, use it. It's a good thing. But at the same time, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You had mentioned that earlier. A lot of times we think of diversification as, the asset mix, the allocation mix, whether it's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, insurance products, whatever. But there's another step of diversification, and where do you have control of your money? And I even have issues where some of my clients that are over the age of 60 that are still working there, the company can still restrict your access to those assets too. So if
I
you
didn't
still
know that. I
have,
did not know that. That's
yeah,
I learned
yeah,
something new.
yeah,
They
no,
can
I had a
actually make
client,
it.
mhm. Yeah, I had a client that this recently happened with, where that person had X amount of dollars that was not in the 401 that we were able to help with. But then there was a significant chunk that was still in the 401. And up until the day that person retired, we couldn't touch it. And this person was 65 years old when I first met them. So that's an issue. If you have, in that case, that person had some money that they had access to, but a lot of it they didn't. Or in the other case of, let's say it was all your money or the vast majority, then you just have to ride it out until you retire or quit.
Well, what's the reason for that? Is there a rationale behind companies doing that? Is it a cost saving measure, or why would they do that? If
I don't know the answer to that question. I would have to dig more into that information to find out. I assume it's just wanting to maintain as much assets as they can in their plan. Why exactly? You'd have to delve into each individual situation. But the issue is, just as far as diversification goes, you want to be able to control some of your money. You don't want to have somebody else being able to tell you what you can and can't do with it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's goes back to. I think a lot of people realize this though during COVID. Even younger people understood that income. They started thinking that income's really important. Because suddenly they didn't have income. What would you say is an ideal time though for someone to start thinking about safer products? I mean, in your opinion.
Well, one thing I want to go back to real quick is you had mentioned 401ks. So for the people that do have access, which the majority, once you've hit 59 and a half, even if you're working at the company, you can still roll over those assets to a traditional IRA. Now, in that case, there are a lot of great strategies that you can take. And you had mentioned, safer investments. Well, a lot of times when people hear the word safer, they in their mind immediately think, oh, well, I'm not going to earn anything. They're thinking, oh, a CD that pays 1% or something along those lines. And in today's world, that's just not true. And there's also things that you can do inside the equity world as far as taking, quote unquote, safer avenues. And really, it's not necessarily about safer. It's about what generates income, whether the market's up or down. And there's a lot of different vehicles out there that can generate income, whether you're talking equities or insurance products, regardless of whether the market's going up and down. So you can do that at any age. I take advantage of it in my own personal portfolio, in that I want assets that are going to generate income. And then for my clients, it's the same thing. It's all about income planning. How do you plan for the assets that you currently have to be able to generate income, whether the market's up or down or wherever the world decides to turn? And you can do that at any age. Now, as far as wanting to participate in some of like the riskier growth stocks, if you're 20, 30, 40 years old and you want to take some risk on some growth stocks or mutual funds, I have no problem with it, but it has to all fit into context. What is the context of what you're trying to accomplish? How much money do you have? What's your age? Are you married, not married? That's where the individualization of making choices comes in, and where somebody like me can really help people.
And that's good. So one of your focuses then I think would be helping people gain some clarity about what they want their money to do, right? What
Yeah.
they want out of their money, what their goals are.
That's always one of my first questions. My first question when I talk with somebody is, what is it you're trying to accomplish? A lot of people don't think about that. They think of, oh, okay, I've got X amount of dollars and I need it to grow. But the question is, why do you need it to grow? What is it you need that money to do for you? And then the next one is, when do you need it to do it for you? So if you're talking about people that are pre-retirees that are about to retire in the next, 5 to 15 years, that's the perfect time to really hammer home, when is it you want it to do whatever it is you're trying to do. So whether that's 60, 62, 65, 70, when are you going to retire? You may not know exactly. It may be you're thinking you're going to retire between 62 and 67. Well, there's ways to plan for, I might retire here or I might retire then. And those are the most important conversations to have, whether you do it with somebody like myself or you do it all by yourself. You have to understand what you're trying to accomplish, and then when are you trying to accomplish it.
Oh, absolutely, because that way, your plan's going to be custom designed, because there's no such thing as a perfect retirement or income plan. There's no such thing as, there's no such thing as the ideal product for everybody. Everything has to be customized. And that's why I think more than ever, people need the guidance of people like yourself, because there's too many products out there. I mean, even since I started in this business myself, they've probably added 150 different annuities, just annuity products, and you're like, okay, what's the difference between a DIA and a SPIA? And I mean, you're just, it's mind-boggling. And even advisors I know are always surprised by, I didn't know they had that. It's like, when did that come out?
And that's where having somebody that thinks in a new mindset and is not stuck in old ways of thinking is really important, because staying on the cutting edge of what is out there, how to use it, when to use it, and what are they offering is all very important. And especially in today's world, things change in a split second. And, I get questions all the time about things like cryptocurrency. Does it have a place in the portfolio or doesn't? And I mean, I'm not going to talk about whether it does or doesn't, because everybody's portfolio is different, but just look at the volatility that's there. Now, is it something that's going to generate income that you can rely on? Well, maybe it does or doesn't fit. But the question
It's fun,
is what?
though. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fun, sure.
Yeah, I enjoy playing.
Right, but it's a tough question, and it's a question that people have. And like you had said, working with somebody like me, can it be helpful? Of course, but you have to have the right person, somebody who truly has your best interest in mind, the
Absolutely.
best interest of the person that they're working for. Not,
that's the fiduciary. Explain that term, though, because that's thrown around a lot lately. They're using it as some sort of slick marketing term, but explain what that really means, why a person would look for a fiduciary investment advisor.
There's a lot of stuff you can read on the internet about fiduciaries and why this and why that. And, insurance people that sell only insurance will say we have a fiduciary responsibility. They're putting new laws in all the time to make sure that they do. And, on the equity side, you'll talk to a broker who also has a fiduciary license. So that means they're a broker and a fiduciary. And then there's people like me who have just a fiduciary license, but I can also sell insurance products. And the reason I'm bringing all of this up is the real goal of when you're looking and interviewing somebody is to find somebody who's going to be transparent and honest with you. Because that's how you find somebody with your best interest in mind. Somebody that's not going to pull the shades down. There's not going to be any Wizard of Oz effect where, here's all this hidden stuff and then all of a sudden there's some wizard behind the curtain. You don't want that. You want the guy that's going to pull aside the curtain and say, hey, here's how it all works. Let me teach you and show you so that you understand what's going on, as opposed to somebody saying, hey, this is what you need to do. It's more important because this is, my client's retirement or your retirement, not mine. It's not Fidelity's, Vanguard's, or any big firm out there. It's not their retirement money. It's not the 401k's money. This is your money. So it's important that you are the one that understands what's best for you, and then you can make an educated decision about how you want to move forward. Whether you do it with an advisor or all on your own, the important part is understanding what you can and can't do and why it may or may not fit into what you're trying to accomplish.
Right. So it's education is a real key factor then in a fiduciary relationship, I would say.
Yeah, education, but just transparency at a very basic level, because there's so much that's hidden away in the financial industry, and it's so complicated sometimes, but it's really not complicated. It just all seems very complicated. So it's easy to take something that's very, very simple and make it as complicated as possible to the point that people are like, you know what, just tell me what to do. And that's not what you want. You want to have a basic understanding because it's really not complicated.
Right. And Warren Buffett said you shouldn't be doing anything in the financial world that you don't understand, at least on a very fundamental level. because
Yeah, makes
you'll
sense.
regret it. You'll regret it. And there are so many different nuances to retirement. Sean writes a lot of articles. He does a podcast, as I mentioned. He does a lot of things to get himself out there. But if somebody wants to talk to you, do you ever do reviews of people's current plans so that they can, have a second set of eyes and see if they're doing things right? Or how do you, how many states can you work in? Tell me a little bit about your practice so I can let people know how to hook up with you.
Yeah, I actually went fully virtual right before COVID happened. And it was just a blessing from God that it happened the way it did. I ended up working with Annuity Gator on the annuity side, and I decided to do that in February of 2020. And of course, I had no idea what was going to happen in March and beyond. So my practice is fully virtual now. I work with people in all 50 states. I have the ability to do that without an issue. And I have clients now that are all over the country. I even have a couple of clients that are in Hawaii, of all places, which is a 6-hour time difference between me and them. But it's a lot of fun to speak with people from all different walks of life. And as far as you had asked, how do I work with people? Can I review their information, redo plans? Yes, of course, I can put second eyes on everything. I don't charge for income plans. I know there's a lot of advisors that are out there that do that. My opinion is transparency and education first. So it's about going through and understanding what is the plan, why is it there, everything I've already mentioned, but I don't charge for that because my job is to earn the business of my clients. And that's not a one-time thing, that's an ongoing basis. So I have people that come to me and do business with me, and I have people that come to me, they learn, they go do it on their own, or they go do it with another advisor. Sometimes it's not a right fit. Personalities, et cetera, have to fit together. But what I do know is that everybody that I speak with, they walk away with some kind of value, and I'm adding value to people's lives. And that's what's most important. And my business will continue to grow because I'm doing the right thing for the people I speak with.
And I know that it will. And so if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
You can always put my name into Google, just Sean-R-Sparkman. There's another Sean out there that's a veterinarian. Yeah, he'll pop up too. But there's a number of sites to see me on. I work with Insight Folios as far as the fiduciary income planning goes. So if you put insightfolios.com, you'll be able to go to the team button. You'll see me, my contact information's there as well. And then of course there's a bunch of social media and other ways to find me
Right.
too.
And I'm gonna put it all on the show notes for anybody that wants to reach out to you and check out some of your articles and things that you've done. I mean, there's a million topics we could talk with you. You're very knowledgeable, and I think I can see why older people gravitate to you because you do bring a fresh approach, and you're not afraid to tell them, look, this is the way it used to be done, the 4% rule, 60-40, all that stuff. But we've got a new way. We've got a new society now. We've got a new, hopefully we'll have a better financial system when the dust has settled. I don't know what to think of what's going to happen. I know we're going to go through some tough times, and this is just a given. So people out there, as you leave this interview, because we're at the half-hour mark, what would be the one piece of advice you would give? If you only could give one piece of advice to people that were calling you asking for help, what would you tell them to do?
To learn. I mean, education is the most important thing. But there is so much that you have to learn. It can be difficult to sort your way through it. And, that's where a professional that's already done the learning can distill the information and make it transparent and easy to understand. Can you do it all on your own? Of course. But at the same time, if you have somebody to guide you along the way, it shortens that learning curve. So you have less to learn in a shorter amount of time. And then one thing I did want to mention that we didn't really talk about is just kind of the markets in general. And was something that I don't see talked about anywhere. It was the little tech bubble that we created in 2020 until now. So it was kind of a reflection of the 1990s technology bubble, where essentially because of COVID and the lockdowns, all the money that was going to places like your fuel, your energy costs, your retail, your travel, your normal go out, eat at a restaurant, retail, etc. All that money that usually went there all flowed over to technology.
Yes.
Everybody started buying from,
Yes.
Amazon, started using Zoom, etc. Right? So a huge amount of earnings went into these companies.
Yes.
that truly wasn't sustainable over a 10, 15, 20-year time frame. Reason being is that at some point the economy was going to reopen, whether it was because the government said so or because people just got sick of being in their house and decided to reopen things. Either way, the government did open things back up, and since then our world has returned somewhat to how it was before, at least insofar as we go out and travel and eat and buy things at stores, etc. So what happened there? All that money flowed from technology back to what they call the value side of the stock market. So it, normalized again. And so
Well,
at the big,
we are
yeah,
talking
go
about
ahead.
it here in California. Let me tell you, we are talking about it. Maybe not on a national level, but you can see it. For example, Facebook, Meta, layoffs. There's a hiring freeze at several of the large Silicon Valley companies. I do work with one Silicon Valley technology company doing some basic marketing for them. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a mini tech bubble. I don't think it's going to be as the slaughterhouse. I was working in workers' comp at the time of the first meltdown, and let me tell you, it was horrific. We were losing accounts left and right just because they just go out of business. Do I think that's going to happen this time? No, but there's going to be some layoffs at companies you never imagined would be having layoffs, like Meta, like Google, places
Well,
like that.
and I wasn't even going into the layoff side. I was just referring to the shift we've seen in the stock market this year.
Well, yeah,
So the shift in the stock market is over $2 trillion of market cap has shifted from technology back to value. And the NASDAQ, your FANG, your Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix,
yeah,
Google, that they
yeah,
control anywhere from on a given day 20 to 30% of the S&P 500's price movement.
right.
So when all that money shifted, the NASDAQ bubble popped well before the Russia-Ukraine war and started dragging the market down.
Well, yeah,
And then,
but the shift is causing them to panic a little bit, is what I'm saying. And they're starting to
yeah,
get lean and mean and lay off people, not spend as much money on ads and things like that. I'm starting to see a little belt tightening, which maybe they needed to do anyway. But
mhm,
yeah, it's just kind of, this is a very tech focused state out here, and so we are very, it's like oil in Texas. When everything starts looking weird in oil, all the Texans get a little nervous. And so I mean, the world is changing. I do believe, I think there's a bigger thing behind all this myself, and that's my tinfoil hat side, if you will. But I see patterns, and I see historical patterns in this, and I think that it was inevitable that we would have a recession or a depression because it's been almost 100 years, believe it or
mhm,
not, since the last one.
yeah.
And so people just need to get ready. They need to partner with people like Sean. I really encourage you. Sean has a lot of integrity, and I certainly, if I had any money, I'd put it with Sean. Don't have any, but if I ever get any, we'll talk to Sean about it. So reach out to him. He's a fount of wisdom. He looks super young, but he's got the wisdom of an 80-year-old. He's got that wisdom there. So go and reach out to him, and please, if you have other questions for Sean, shoot him I think there's a contact form on your website, isn't there? For
Yeah, I
people
mean,
to
my
help.
email's on there and
Yeah,
my phone number too. So
we'll
just
make
send
it
an
easy
email
for
or
you to
give me
reach
a
out.
call.
And I want to thank Sean Sparkman for being here. I want to have him on again to talk about, do some deep dive into some of these topics where we can really look at something like the tech bubble and see how it's going to play out for people. Because, again, use liquidity and control of your money is really important. You need to be the driver, at least for part of your wealth. And if I had any, again, I want to be in the captain's chair. I want to be that person making the decisions. So thanks a lot, Sean, for being here again. Sean Sparkman out in the greater Detroit area and nationwide. He's bad and nationwide. So we want to talk to him again. Thanks for being on, Sean. And you and I will
Thank you for
talk
having me.
a little bit later. Take care. Thanks.
All
Bye.
right, you too. Bye.